Donald Trump Jr. is practically begging the conservative consumer base to cease and desist all boycott activities against Anheuser-Busch because Anheuser-Busch has traditionally donated money to Republican campaigns. My name's Greg Hoyt, and we're going to go ahead and dive into the details of this Republican Party freakout over not wanting to upset the mega donors here on The Breakdown. Hey, this is Greg Hoyt from The Breakdown. If you're new here and checking out the channel on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also, feel free to follow me on Twitter at GregHoytLET. Anyway, let's get on to the video. On the April 13th installment of Don Jr.'s Rumble-based show, Triggered, he spent the first several minutes of the episode addressing the Dylan Mulvaney / Bud Light controversy that has sparked widespread boycotts and general condemnations from the conservative consumer base. The overall crux of Don Jr.'s argument, and pleas to end the mockery and boycotting of Bud Light by the conservative consumer base is just largely predicated on the fact that Anheuser-Busch generally gives more money to Republican candidates and PACs than they do to Democratic candidates and PACs.
Okay, we've all seen the backlash that Budweiser is facing over the trans marketing scheme. And we looked into the political giving and lobbying history of Anheuser-Busch. And guess what? They actually support Republicans. Last cycle, their employees and their PAC gave about 60% to Republicans and 40% to Democrats. And that's literally almost unheard of in corporate America. And they actually went pretty big for some important races. For example, they went big for Kevin McCarthy's effort to take back the House and fire Nancy Pelosi.
Yes. Anheuser-Busch apparently, simped for House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, an individual within the Republican Party that managed to attract ire from conservative voters during his time as the minority leader in the House, and he was not exactly favored amongst voters to lead the House once the Republicans took control of the House during the 2022 midterms. I don't exactly think that's going to be a good argument for Don Jr. to put forth in the hopes that, Anheuser-Busch will fall back into the good graces of the conservative consumer base. But let's go ahead and discuss Don Jr.'s emphasis on playing nice so as to not upset the conservative mega donor in Anheuser-Busch. While Don Jr.'s father's political campaign for 2024 has managed to attract some healthy donations from individuals in the wake of Donald Trump's indictment, obviously Donald Trump eyeing down 2024, he still wants to cozy up and rub elbows with the big corporations and the mega donors. Hell, earlier this month it was revealed that Donald Trump's campaign reached out directly to, conservative donors, mega donors that were giving money to Ron DeSantis and urging these donors to stop giving DeSantis money and to give it to him. And with Don Jr.'s recent rant, just urging the conservative consumer base to stop the mockery and stop the boycotting of Bud Light and Anheuser-Busch by extension, he's basically putting on display the embodiment of shilling for donors rather than, the actual voters. And it's true. Anheuser-Busch, between the individual employees and allocations to PACs, does collectively give more money to Republicans than Democrats. The information is all out there for anyone to see. However, don't conflate money to Republican PACs and candidates with Anheuser-Busch actually being some kind of largely conservative brand. Because to really get an understanding of where a company's, political interests lie, it's not so much where they're putting the money in terms of, campaign donations. Really what you should look at is the lobbying. And while Anheuser-Busch collectively dished out $1.7 million to Republican candidates and PACs, the organization shelled out $5.1 million for lobbying in 2022. And every single issue that Anheuser-Busch lobbied on during the 117th Congress pertained to basically lowering their tax obligations or using government force to make aluminum producers lower their prices. Anheuser-Busch didn't spend, a penny or a dime of that $5.1 million in lobbying cash to promote any kind of, socially conservative stance or anything of that nature. It was all about them, lowering their taxes and making sure aluminum is cheap to buy so they can, continue canning their beers on the cheap. But in terms of money that is easily seen being spent, is Bud Light has spent ostensibly millions of marketing dollars to promote socially progressive or leftist ideals and agendas. The proof is in the pudding. Over the years, Bud Light has put forth marketing campaigns that promoted gay marriage.
The Bud Light party here celebrating Steve and Greg's wedding.
Gay weddings, they're just like any wedding.
They also sponsored and promoted Pride events and created advertisements on the behalf of Pride. And who could forget the time Bud Light was peddling falsehoods about the existence of some sort of gender wage gap? You know, a feminist talking point that has been debunked several times over.
Bud Light party here to discuss equal pay.
Women don't get paid as much as men, and that is wrong.
And we have to pay more for the same stuff.
What?
Yeah, cars,
What?
dry cleaning,
What?
shampoo.
What? You pay more but get paid less? That is double wrong.
But going back to Don Jr.'s rant about how conservative consumers just need to fall back in line and keep giving money to Bud Light, he also made the rather outrageous claim that Anheuser-Busch is an American company.
Anheuser-Busch totally shit the bed with this Dylan Mulvaney thing. I'm not, though, for destroying an American and iconic company.
Newsflash. Bud Light is geen Amerikaans Het is België. Anheuser-Busch is owned by InBev, which is a Belgian company. I mean, yes, Anheuser-Busch does employ American workers, and that is largely due to the fact that there are American-based, operations and a large pool of consumers here. But at the end of the day, Anheuser-Busch is as an American of a company as Nintendo. Again, Don Jr. is pleading with the conservative consumer base to cease and desist all boycott and mockery operations, because Don Jr. knows that it can impact himself, his fathers, and collectively their inner circle's money flow. That's the only reason Don Jr. cares about this.
Trust me, the memes have been so good, I'm sitting there chomping at it, I want it. But when I actually look into it, I'm not gonna blame the whole company for the inaction or the stupidity of someone in a marketing campaign that got woke as hell. The company itself doesn't participate in the same leftist nonsense as the other big conglomerates. But if they do this again, then it's on them. Then screw them. But listen, one of the things we have to do, I like calling balls and strikes, and I love going after people when they screw up. But when you actually look into it, they'd be one of the more conservative-leaning companies in America.
The Bud Light party here celebrating Steve and Greg's wedding.
Gay weddings, they're just like any wedding. You've got cringeworthy speeches.
Can everybody's attention, please? It's probably the last time you're gonna be seeing me for a while.
Hi, I'm Robbie. I'm from Ireland, and this is my first.
Bud Light party here to discuss equal pay.
Women don't get paid as much as men, and that is wrong.
And we have to pay more for the same stuff.
What?
Yeah, cars,
What?
dry cleaning,
What?
shampoo.
What? You pay more but get paid less? That is double wrong. I'm calling.
So they've been put on notice. I'm leaving them alone. I think you should probably do the same. If they do it again, they've been warned.
He's blatantly admitting that Anheuser-Busch did affront the conservative consumer base. But he's saying that, conservative consumers shouldn't hold Bud Light / Anheuser-Busch to account, because that may put in jeopardy Don Jr. and his friends, big political donations down the line. Which again, those Republican donations coming from Anheuser-Busch eventually just lead to lobbying in the future, where all Anheuser-Busch does with their investments in the political game is just make it so they pay less taxes and get aluminum for cheaper. I'm telling you, you gotta love politicians and their symbiotes. They will beg for your vote, but then also in the same breath demand that you don't vote with your dollar. If the voting with the dollar just so happens to interrupt the money swap circle jerk that transpires between mega corporations and politicians. Anyways, guys, that's pretty much the long and short of it. Go ahead and share your thoughts in the comments section, whether you think Don Jr. is just completely out of line and, he's just simping for big donors and he needs to keep his mouth shut, or whether you think that Don Jr. is on the spot and he's correct in asserting that, conservative consumers shouldn't be engaged in a boycott, or maybe your thoughts are in the middle. Whatever your take is on the matter, go ahead and drop it in the comments section. Anyways, guys, that was the breakdown. Peace.